In late September 2020, a group of happy campers sat under the open sky, the quiet stretching over the California desert. Suddenly, a thunderous boom interrupted the stillness. Looking up, they saw two aircraft colliding, fragments scattering across the arid terrain. Reacting quickly, someone lifted a phone, recording as the fighter twisted through the air, barely holding together. The jet erupted in a massive fireball, flames ripping through the desert floor. Right after the crash, a woman asked in Spanish, quote, "Is the other one okay?" She wasn't talking about the jet, now burning in the distance, but the other aircraft, the one no one could see. High above, a massive KC-130J Super Hercules was still flying, but it was severely damaged, on fire, and leaking fuel. 8 Marines fought desperately to keep the crippled craft airborne and somehow survive. A mission gone wrong. Just after 4 p.m. on September 29, 2020, the United States Marine Corps KC-130J Super Hercules Tactical Aerial Refueling and Transport Aircraft, call sign Raider 50, was on a refueling mission on its way to support a class of the Weapons and Tactics Instruction Course, run by Marine Aviation Weapons and Tactics Squadron 1. Over the skies between the California and Arizona borders, at the controls of the tanker was Captain Michael Wolfe, the aircraft commander, seated in the right seat. In the left seat sat Major Corey Jones, the co-pilot who was flying his first mission since the birth of his son. Unlike a standard KC-130J flight crew of 5 personnel, 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and 2 loadmasters, this flight carried a total of 8 Marines as an instructor, and additional loadmasters were on board to complete training requirements. When the original receivers for the mission, a formation of FA-18 Hornets, failed to arrive, the crew awaited 2 F-35B Lightning II jets that were next in line to take on fuel. The first jet pulled up to the Super Hercules tanker, locked onto the left-wing fuel line, took in its share, and pulled away in a smooth and by-the-book maneuver. However, as the second fighter, call sign Bolt 93, followed, its probe reached for the right side fuel pod and slammed right into the tanker. Suddenly, a violent jolt tore through the cockpit of the Super Herc, shaking the aircraft down to its frame. The cockpit crew registered the damage immediately, as the impact had ripped into the KC-130J's right side, tearing a hole into the fuselage. With this, a sudden and violent rush of air filled the cabin, the noise so loud and overbearing it cut through the wail of alarms. In a moment, the right side engines were gone, as were 2 massive turboprops burning fuel into the open air. But the ailerons, elevators, and rudder still responded. According to Wolfe, quote, "That's when, it's kind of cliche, the training kicks in." Mayday over California. That afternoon, as Federal Aviation Administration air traffic controllers handled typical traffic, a sudden call broke the routine, a report of pyrotechnics about 5 miles away, possibly a collision. Moments later, an emergency call from the Marines came over the radio. Wolfe screamed at the top of his lungs, quote, LA Center, this is Raider 50, declaring an in-flight emergency. Major collision with Bolt 93. We have 2 engines out, and we are leaking fuel and might be on fire. In an emergency descent at this time, Raider 50. Air traffic control tried to direct them toward Thermal Airport, a small airstrip southeast of Palm Springs. If they could hold altitude long enough, they might just make it. The collision and frantic radio calls sparked confusion about the KC-130J's position and whether the F-35B was still in the air. As controllers worked to clear the frequency and reports came flooding in, unbeknownst to Raider 50, the F-35B had already gone down, crashing into the desert. Its pilot, flying with the Green Knights of Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 121, had ejected just in time, escaping with minor injuries. On the ground, a shell-shocked camper in the area aimed their phone at the sky, recording the exact moment the jet plunged toward the desert, a thin trail of smoke curling behind it. The footage would soon be spread all over social media. Fire at altitude. Back on board the Super Herc, the chaos turned to a focus on retaining control and getting their aircraft safely to the ground. The men tapped into all they knew about their tanker, knowledge built from hours of flying, training in simulators, and reading about emergency procedures. Wolfe saw the far right engine was gone, and the crew in the back confirmed the other was destroyed too. The men pulled the fire handle, hoping to stop the damage from spreading, but flames and fuel still trailed from the wing. A fire could ignite at any moment, especially considering their highly flammable cargo. With their landing gear most likely compromised and a ticking time bomb in their hands, their only advantage was the plane's altitude. They had just enough space to stabilize, pick a direction, and begin the descent. Co-pilot Jones grabbed the controls, tested them, and quickly realized the plane was still flying. Knowing they might still have a chance, he called out to the crew, only to be met by silence. The new father recalled thinking, quote, "We gotta get this plane on the ground. We've gotta do whatever we can to save everybody's life." No ejection seats. Not enough parachutes for the larger-than-usual crew. Nothing to do but fly the plane. Landing. Each person on the crew, from the flight engineer to all the loadmasters in the back, was completely in focus mode. According to Jones, quote, "You could hear it in the voices of everybody with the severity of the situation, but we all had a job to do. Nobody quit or froze up." 10 minutes after the collision, Raider 50 was beginning to line up for its approach to Thermal Airport. As the crew fought to keep it steady, a sharp, uncontrollable turn signaled the aircraft was losing airspeed, pulled off course by failing systems. With thermal no longer an option, Wolf and Jones spotted a patchwork of farm fields stretching toward the horizon. There was no time to rethink. Aviate, navigate, communicate. The field would have to do. Once near the ground, the pilots dropped the landing gear and set the flaps, slowing their approach. The controls turned sluggish, and the aircraft resisted their inputs, lurching unpredictably. The KC-130J hit the dirt, sinking into wet soil, skidding across a cauliflower field as it bled off speed, skidding hundreds of yards before stopping. Against all odds, they were still alive. Once back at base, Jones pulled out his phone, typed a quick message, and hit send, quote, "We just had a mishap. I won't be home for dinner." Lessons learned. The September 2020 refueling mission was the last for KC-130J callsign Raider 50, as the collision, fire damage, and emergency landing left it beyond repair. After investigators finished their assessment, Marine Corps crews spent a week clearing the wreckage, using a crane to salvage components that could be repurposed for other aircraft. The crisis the 8 crew members faced far exceeded anything Wolf and Jones had ever encountered in a flight simulator. It wasn't until after they stepped away from the wreckage that the full weight of what they had survived began to set in. According to Jones, quote, "It's made me respect the aircraft more and its capabilities. The maintainers that keep the aircraft flying every step of the way, the manufacturer, every piece of the puzzle that went into getting us safely on the deck that day." For their actions on September 29, 2020, Captain Michael Wolf and Major Corey Jones were awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, one of the highest honors for aviators. Despite catastrophic damage, they remained calm under pressure, working together to keep Raider 50 in the air, stabilize it, and execute a controlled crash landing, saving all 8 crew members on board. Despite the award being individual, Wolf said, quote, "We fly as a crew. I'm proud of how everyone handled themselves and kept calm. It's still everyone coming together and doing their part. That one single action could be the thing that saved us in the end."